Good morning, Elizabeth. It is Monday morning, which is a bit of a challenge for us to grab somebody on a Monday morning for a hallway conversation. But if we were in person, we could be bumping into each other at Starbucks or whichever your preference is for an on-campus coffee. So good morning, and thanks for joining me today for a little chat.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Elizabeth? I am very honored and privileged to know you and know more about you, but just in case anybody tunes into this conversation, if you wanted to let people know who you are, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so I'm Elizabeth. I work at the Student Success Center as a digital media specialist. And actually, in a few months, I'll have been at the Student Success Center for 5 years. So it's coming up.
Ooh, so are you a person who keeps track of those anniversary dates when you started work, or I mean, obviously we all know our birthdays, things like that, but yeah, work anniversaries, is that important to you?
Yeah, I think so. It's a great way to kind of reflect back and think of what you've learned in a role and where like how far you've come. So I think, yeah, I'm probably one of those people.
Yeah, I am too. So this summer I will have been at McMaster for 4 years. I'll celebrate my rollover from 4 years into my fifth year. And it's August the 14th when I joined in 2017. So
I think
yeah.
that's my date.
Oh, come on. Okay.
No, I think, wait, no, August 14, it was my second role at Mac. So date of that.
There you go. Good. So, and I do like to celebrate. I've done, I have a donut thing. So I'm pretty sure I've brought donuts in on that date before. I don't know what I'm going to do this year. Maybe I'll just go to my office and show up and, celebrate on video by myself. I'm not sure. Do you do something like, do you try and do a cake, or do you let people know, or is it just sort of a mental in your mind anniversary?
I think it's just, a personal thing. I think the 5 years is a big deal. So I think that's why I'm noticing it a little bit more this year. And also like I'm going to be 30 next year. So like, I think a lot of reflections happening. I know it's not old, but like it's a milestone.
It's a milestone. It is a milestone for sure. I mean, we love those. I think it's really important. I mean, I am a huge proponent of celebrating successes. I talk about that a lot as it pertains to work successes, so project end and hitting achievements within a team, et cetera. I think it's really important, and I do think it's important to mark these dates. So we'll have to make sure we do a happy birthday to you. But that and I don't know what those tens are. It's really funny when you hit the tens as you go through. So I'm a few decades ahead of you. So I'm sure you'll have a lovely. I had a surprise birthday. I remember my 30th birthday. Somebody had a surprise birthday party for me, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know if you like surprises, but
oh, I do.
Some surprises are better than others, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, just the good ones.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing to get yourself outside during this kind of shift in seasons. That's a bit of a milestone for all of us as well, is going through a shift in the season while we're also unfortunately going through a bit of a downshift in our COVID environment, which forces us to have these conversations by way of Zoom. So fill me in on what's been keeping you a little bit more energized.
Yeah. So you know what? I've been doing a few things. Probably last time we had spoken, I was definitely in a bit of a lower place. I'm finding the nice weather has started to lift me a little bit. I love to go for walks. So actually, it was beautiful on Saturday. So my husband and I, we did a 2-hour walk. So 1 hour to campus, 1 hour back. We didn't go on campus, but just kind of in the vicinity.
Good for you.
So yeah, like, I mean, that was great. And I've been doing a lot of Pilates. So that's been kind of my new thing, is I just do the YouTube Pilates videos when I wake up in the morning, and they're wonderful. I've been finding it's been helping with my posture. And when you have good posture, you tend to feel a lot better because your back's not hurting. So yeah, I would say those are kind of my two things right now.
That's great. So the posture piece is really interesting. I agree with you 100%. I think for a lot of people for the past year who've been working from sofas and things like that. Now, I've talked to you, and I know that's not your you're not always sitting on that sofa when you're working, are you? You have a desk.
I'm over there.
Yes. Okay, there you go.
That's my,
Nice. Hey, did you
yeah.
paint? Are you the one who painted those pictures I'm seeing on your wall?
You know what? No, but my mom, we're both really big fans of art. And when they had redone their house, they had like a basement full of all these like beautiful pieces from when I was growing up. So my mom's like, they can sit in the basement, or you can just take what you like for now. And then, they're still
Beautiful.
hers, but
I
I
love it.
mean,
I
better to be on the
love
wall.
that. Yeah, that's
Yeah, this one matches
beautiful.
it
But the
too. So
red, yeah, I
perfect.
love the colors. It's so great. What a wonderful way to
Yeah.
stay energized to have that kind of color in front of you and now behind you, but that looks really great. Yeah, I was going to say about the posture, because I think a lot of people have been kind of, I've been really fortunate. I've had this chair for a couple of years. So when I flipped into work from home mode, I just, I had my work chair, but I know a lot of people have sort of suffered through the circumstances of use what you've got. And that has a huge impact on your overall well-being and how you're feeling. And I think, the walking thing helps to shake it out a little bit, but it's great that you're doing Pilates. I'm not a Pilates doer. I've done one of those Adrian yoga programs. And do you know Adrian? Everybody,
Yeah.
I think, with a cool dog that lays around while she does yoga.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
She's really awesome. Yeah, so I think people have tried different things to try and stay healthy. So was it hard to pick up doing Pilates over a
Oh yeah.
device? Yeah. So
It was really, really hard. Like probably when I started actually around my birthday. My back was terrible, and I'm like, I'm not going into my 30s with a bad back. Like I can't do it. We're already in a pandemic and all these other things. So like around my birthday, I decided, okay, like I'm gonna pick something good for your posture. And so it was kind of a combo of yoga and Pilates. At first, I found one called a workday arm stretch
Oh,
by Blogilates. It's like about 15 minutes long. So it's like a really good amount of time. And you can do the whole thing sitting, which I really liked. So that's kind of what started me on it. And I found actually like my shoulders used to be crooked and they're starting to straighten now. That one in particular is probably my go-to, but I've been sort of now I've been trying to challenge myself now that like I'm strong enough. It just takes some time.
good for you. I think
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, I'm going to be part of a panel at the University of Toronto has an IT day, kind of like our IT forum. And
Yeah.
so my colleague, Bo Wanschneider, who's the CIO at U of T, has invited me and a couple of other peers to participate in a panel. And one of the questions he's going to ask us is, what have you done to support yourself as you've gone through this last year? So let me flip that question to you and say, what have you, so clearly trying to move and do whatever, but are there some things that you can share that you've tried to do to support yourself, Elizabeth, through the past year? It's been a change,
Yeah.
a real change.
It's been a really big change. I mean, I know you know this about me from Twitter, but I do read a lot.
You read
I
a lot.
find it's
Yeah.
a great way to get offline, and also put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. So I think like just as an English major, that's the biggest thing I ever took from my studies. Reading is really about the human experience, even if it's fiction, and it can really exercise our empathy, which I think last year was definitely really challenged, and probably in a good way. Like in my experience, at least, people have been a lot more empathetic in the workplace, which, I personally really appreciate. And obviously folks at UTS, you're all doing such an amazing job, and you're dealing with people when they're at their worst because their technology is not working. And so you have to be really empathetic, because, it's not a great situation for everybody. So yeah, definitely reading would be mine.
Yeah, yeah, and it is the connection you and I have made on Twitter has been fun that way. It's funny, I've had a couple of conversations with different people, Colin Cherneda being another individual who I've known first through Twitter in some weird way, and then have made the connection with, and we've had a hallway conversation as well, which is great. Yeah, and an English literature degree, which is also my undergraduate degree. I don't know if we've covered that. I think we have, and I agree with you. I think the ability to escape and to spend time immersed in a story. I love the whole idea of digital storytelling or telling stories to help people connect with ideas. And I think, even in IT support, as you've alluded to, and thank you for the kind words about UTS. I know the team is working super hard, as is everybody at McMaster, to try and continue to keep things moving along. When you're helping people with their IT challenges or whatever the customer service need is, it really is about understanding a person's story in a lot of ways. We can really think about storytelling as part of our day-to-day interactions with people. It's really telling the story and understanding a person from their perspective and their story about what's going on with them to help find a way to align and support them in that. So it's an interesting thing. Do you find that, I know that you've done quite a bit of work with our IT Student Advisory Committee, and I want you to talk a little bit about that, because I'm really curious about what your experience has been after a year, but also in the other work that you do for the Student Success Center. Talk about that, and maybe can you interweave storytelling in that in some way?
Definitely. So I would say, I don't know which one to talk about first. I'll start with SSC just because
well,
that's so related to my job. Yeah. Actually, when I first came on 5 years ago, as we talked about, the goal was really about figuring out ways that we could better connect with students online. We have this community in person, but we know that there are all different kinds of communities, including online. And so one of the very first projects I had was to develop a strategy for social media, because our surveys were showing that that was one way in which students really wanted to connect with us. And so storytelling, of course, played a huge role in that strategy. How do we want to tell stories? How can we create those really memorable McMaster moments that then, connect not just to the student experience, but also the fact that, we delivered that story or that moment. And so actually the tagline of that strategy was giving a face to what we do. And it was really about disarming, and really kind of being able to look at student services and be like, oh, that's not a scary place, because I know all the faces behind student services, and they're really kind faces, and they're really good people who are really passionate about what they do. And so that was kind of where things started for me. And so we've gotten to tell some really great stories over the years. I think one of my favorites, I have two favorites, but I think one of my favorites is probably the Exam Coffee Needed campaign, which I got to inherit. So the way it worked originally was people would tweet how they wanted their coffee, and then the Student Success Center would deliver it during exams.
Oh, how much fun is that? That's
amazing. I know, it's so good. And then, but Twitter wasn't really where students were when I came on. And so, we had to kind of re-envision that campaign. And so, one way that we did that was we had students vote on where they wanted us to pop up. And then what we did was we created these reusable mugs that said like Exam Coffee Needed. I designed them. We would pop up like as like a little kiosk, and we put notes from our staff, like handwritten notes on every single reusable mug. And so when you got a reusable mug, you also got a note from our frontline staff.
Love that.
And then we also had academic staff there so that, we could also connect people with services if they needed them. Otherwise, it was just sort of like that feel-good moment. And so there were all these videos online of people with their cups while they were studying. And so that's just like an example of the type of storytelling that I've gotten to do in my role.
I love that. I love that. What a great feeling, and knowing that you've given a lift to somebody during a very stressful time.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. And I think that's what's been really exciting with the IT Student Advisory Committee. These are students who have so much influence in their own communities. They have so much to offer. They are extremely intelligent people as well. Like I certainly learned so much from everybody who's at the digital table in my experience. And, being able to take some of my experiences of creating those moments, we've been able to also embed some really fun digital moments into the committee meetings since we are online.
Mhm.
So, at Christmas, or sorry, at winter break, we actually gave gift cards to everybody as a surprise and a thank you for all their contributions during the term. We did, this was Krista's idea, the other chair of the committee. We did a digital escape room within OneNote. So again, like just a fun way of learning what people knew about IT, but doing it through gamification.
Mm.
And same with like using all kinds of digital tools to brainstorm and to think bigger. And I know that you're aware of this project, but we also had the Digital Values Project, which came from a lot of those activities where we really learned from the committee that people had a lot to say about their learning experience as leaders at the university. And so we kind of gave them a space to be able to communicate that in their own way and on their own terms. And I think that people are going to be really excited and interested in our annual report when we get to release some of that work from the committee. So very excited for that to come out soon.
Those are all really interesting opportunities to think differently about what this whole virtual experience is and how you can leverage that to extend and expand people's experiences. So thank you for sharing all of that. I think that's really, it's quite fascinating to me because you were very involved before we moved into the kind of forced remote experience. You were very involved in understanding that ability to connect with people in an online environment. And that's probably really supported you as you've entered into this with a level of comfort, I'm guessing, Elizabeth. I mean, are you finding working remotely has been comfortable to you? And do you imagine that this is something that you want to continue as the pandemic dissipates, which we know hopefully it will very soon, sooner than maybe we think it will, but hopefully. Do you imagine working remotely some of the time? And what does that mean to you in terms of those on-campus connections? How do you think you could foster that? And I mean, you've talked a little bit about that, even just with the experiences that you've just told us about.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, especially in comparison to my colleagues, because I was already in this space, my learning curve was definitely much lower. So, I recognize that. I definitely think that allowed me to take a bit more of a leadership role, like in my position, to be able to support people into this kind of new space for many of them. And I think, one of my challenges was really figuring out, well, what is a good amount of leadership that I can exercise in this role, and kind of navigating like, where do I lead and where do I kind of just sort of sit back and let things happen. And so, that's been a really great experience for me. And I think that's where I've had to stretch a little bit more personally. I think in terms of, when we go back, I think that the pandemic has really opened up a lot of opportunities for our team. Now that everybody has, I would say at least a base level of digital skills, it's going to allow us to tell more interesting stories. And so whether, I'm in person or I'm online, or maybe there's a little bit of both to my role. I know that it's not going to be the same ask when, I'm asking somebody who already has a really difficult job to come in and be part of this sort of digital experience. They're going to understand what that means. And that's going to be really exciting because there's audiences like commuter students. There's audiences like our international students, who sometimes aren't here in the summer. And so being able to do that kind of work is still really important, even if hypothetically 100% of us are back in person. So really excited about the opportunities it's going to open up for all of us.
That's great. I agree. I think it really, from a CIO, CTO perspective, we did digital transformation on hyper speed, going from fully on campus to fully off campus. And there's a lot of this that will continue to be resident in the work we do, I think undoubtedly. And it's certainly a big part of the conversations and the reading that I'm doing these days. What is the next phase of our work world look like from a campus perspective and just generally across all organizations. I think there's a huge change. That idea of thinking about the people who aren't part of our everyday on-campus experience. I think for a lot of people, I don't want to say individuals like the commuter student or an international student who maybe can't be local for whatever reason. I wouldn't say that we were forgetting them, but I don't think that they were front of mind, or there was a lot of thought put into how do we ensure no matter where people are, they're still feeling a touchback or a connection to the campus. And now it's so front of mind. I hope that's something that we don't lose as we return to campus, the importance of having those different ways of making connections and staying connected with people. And, you know, we say that whenever I say anything about connection, people immediately think network connection. And as we know, it's humanity connection, and the network is a tool to allow that to take place. So important to keep that in mind. I think it's interesting in the conversations that you have with students. Do you feel like there's some themes about this experience for our students? I was just reading something where there's a sense in some cases that this has been an equalizer for some, but I anticipate that there's also been a sense of inequality because of technology as well. So maybe you can speak to that. Are those conversations that you've had at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely those are things that we think about. I think a really obvious one would be when we think of mental health, which was already that was already an issue that in student affairs was front of mind for us. Recognizing that, you know, in some cases, there are people who are living at home with maybe 4 or 5 family members in that space. So access to counseling looks different. And, you know, I was really pleased to learn that the Student Wellness Center is actually offering, you know, parkside bench appointments for students. So, you know, that's one way in which they've kind of been able to adapt some of their services to recognize that there are populations of people who can't safely access appointments. And, you know, obviously, you know, text-based services as well. So, you know, at the Student Success Center, we have drop-in appointments Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for careers. And, you know, we know that that's a top stressor facing students. And so they can go in and have a text-based chat with counselors and with career experts. So, you know, I think, you know, ensuring that when we're providing services, we're also meeting people where they're at is just really important. And I think sometimes when it might seem like an equalizer because we're all accessing things in the same way. But I think, as we both know, you know, inclusivity is not really about offering the same. It's about also looking at individual people and going, okay, how can I ensure that they're receiving the same level of service, regardless of what it is that they are experiencing? And network connection issues, I think, which you had brought up, you know, that's another good example. We know in certain rural communities in Ontario, in Canada, across the world too, right? Like there are firewalls and all sorts of barriers to access. And so making sure that we're not offering everything in one space as well. So really being able to diversify how we provide services and programs is really, really important. And I think it's something that is a bit of a work in progress. I don't think any of us, like not just, you know, the Student Success Center, but I mean like across Canada, I don't think any of us have really like mastered it yet, but I think that's the point. I think as long as we're kind of continuously working to do better, that's really the best we can do. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of
Totally.
where my mind goes.
No, absolutely. That's fantastic and very well said. I think it's an important reminder for us all, and it transcends this particular experience to remind us in every way that we don't understand in a lot of cases what people's experiences or barriers are. And so being able to be open to have the question asked in order to understand, in order to be able to meet them where they're at. I think that you've brought that whole phrase of meeting people where they're at to a whole other level of understanding. So thank you. That's really well said. I think it's really important for us in any service organization to be able to think of that. It's hard. We get really caught up in the day-to-day activities and the speed to completion and all of those things that drive us. And sometimes it's really easy to overlook important things that may seem small, but are really so big and have such an impact on other people's ability to do and access what they need. So thank you. That's amazing. I'm going to change topics because we're getting near the end of our time together, but I want to ask you a question that I know lots of people are asking each other. If there's one thing that you're really looking forward to when it feels like the COVID-19 situation has receded, is there something in particular that you've been thinking, I can't wait to do X? What's the X for you?
Oh, like this one's super, super easy. My partner and I, we have a lot of family in Ottawa. So his mom has 14 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
She's number 13. And a lot of them live out in Ottawa. And, before the pandemic, like it was very normal for us to have themed parties. So New Year's was the big one. We've done jean on jean, emojis, glow in the dark, like rock and roll, like everything.
Awesome.
And, it's like 90 people in a house. So like, this is like we all squish together, and obviously we can't do that right now. But it would be so nice to be able to just even socially distanced, be able to see some of that family in person. It's been over a year for me. So, just being able to see them would be it would just be amazing. So looking forward to that.
That sounds like fun. And are you having lots of conversations about what the first theme will be?
Oh, it's always a debate. He has, they actually have their own committee, and you have to pitch your themes. So there's a slideshow involved, and people vote. And it's all his aunts and uncles, and they're retired now, so they get a lot of fulfillment out of being able to sort of make it into this really big, exciting thing. And when they're babysitting kids, then kids get to make the decorations. So it becomes, it's really nice, actually.
That is fantastic. I love the creativity in that, but the whole idea of just being together, having fun, theme or no theme, I'm sure
yes.
I anticipate that you are mirroring what a lot of other people are feeling, just that sense of belonging and being able to get up close and personal with the people we love is really a key thing that we're all looking forward to as well. And I'm hoping that I can get up close and personal with you in person again, sometime maybe at the end of the summer or early fall when we're able to be back on campus again. Thanks for making time for me, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. You're always so generous with your time, and I always get so much out of our conversations. Thanks for this. We will post our hallway conversation and look forward to more storytelling as we go forward. And I'll definitely, now I know I need to make a note to follow up with you and find out when that party happens, what the theme was.
Thanks so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to share.
It's always my pleasure. Great to see you, and have a wonderful day today. Enjoy the sunshine.
You as well.